Hello everyone, and before we get into the meat of this video, I just wanted to give some quick context for where this came from. This interview with the guys over at Lowe Bros Studios was done during our 24-hour live stream, Sourcefest 2017. Now, the footage used during the live stream was pretty laggy, and the reason for that is nothing for the game itself. It's due to the setup we had during the stream. So struggling to run this game and the live stream and the hosting all the audio and all that jazz, and I don't think it's fair for a fair representation of the game. So to counter this, rather than putting footage over this and having the audio not match up with the actual footage being shown, and especially because we talk about stuff we're seeing at the time, it just wouldn't make any sense. So I'm also going to be uploading at the same time just 10 minutes of us playing Indie Pogo for you to enjoy, so you can get a proper representation of how this game's going to be. So with that out of the way, let's jump right into the interview, and I'll leave a link to that gameplay at the end. So enjoy!
Alright, so now it's the start of our Indie Pogo segment featuring Lowe Bros Studios.
Yes, specifically you're the graphics designer for Lowe Bros Studios and one of the founders, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Okay, let me pop up that interview questions thing. Okay.
Yeah, I got the interview. So, how do you want to? Should we do the interviews or the gameplay first? Ooh, which one is most interesting?
I mean, we could switch off interview questions, and I could be playing it on stream in the background.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
When you get up, because I'm having issues on my end with my blooming Xbox controller.
Okay.
Pain in the bum.
Alright, let me get that set up.
So I'm back for this 1 hour, and we are showing off gameplay footage of the upcoming Indie Pogo, which is for those who don't know, is a Smash Brothers style crossover fighting game with a bunch of indie characters, and you have people like Commander Video. Is it Captain Viridian from VDV? It's Captain, isn't it? It's not Commander.
It's Captain
Viridian. Yeah. So you've got Captain Viridian, and then
it gets confusing. It's CV and CV.
Yeah. And then you've also got there's Mr. Fishy, I believe his name is, and
from Shushimi.
From Shushimi, yeah, that's the name. Then there are some characters that haven't, they've been revealed, but we haven't had access to, like Lilac from Freedom Planet and Orcane from Rivals of Aether.
And then I believe in the build that I sent you, we've also got Tesla Kid in there from Tesla Grad.
Oh yes, Tesla Kid from Tesla Grad.
It should be mostly playable at this point. Yep.
I actually, I wasn't able to get them in the build. They just stay locked.
What, Tesla? No, Lilac and Orcane you can't get.
Oh yeah, them, and then
Tesla Kid is available though.
Okay.
I've used him.
Whoops.
He's just missing an animation or so.
Some minor things here or there. Yeah, for the most part, it's playable.
There it is.
Yep. Sorry, I'm just moving some things around.
I know this question isn't in the thing, but how come you require an Xbox controller to play? What was the thoughts behind that?
So that's actually just for the demo right now. When we get to full release, it's going to have full controller support.
Oh, okay. Sure.
That's just for our own internal use. We haven't gotten a chance to get to that point yet. Mm-hmm. What I've been told from my programmer is in order to get something other than X input up and running in Game Maker, it's going to take a decent rework of the control scheme the way we have it now. So
right.
It's a matter of time.
Yeah. Okay then. Alright, interesting.
Okay.
Chris, you're going to need to... Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I just had to move things around. Get our icons off the screen so they could actually see the game. Alright.
Okay, good. So, now it's up. We can't do... Unfortunately, the game's going to have online, and we have an online version, but I cannot get my Xbox controller to work for the life of me. And for whatever bizarre reason, my computer is acting up so it won't run on that.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just going to have to play CPU.
That's
I
fine.
guess, which is a shame, really, because it would have been fun to play
That's okay.
across the net. But well, why don't you show them the character select screen? I'll start the questions once the matches are properly started.
Alright.
So let's have a look at these exciting characters.
And we got good colors too.
There we go. I thought you got didn't you unlock Captain Viridian? I thought you did.
No, it wasn't for some reason. I played for a few hours. I was trying around different things. None of them were. He wasn't unlocking. I wasn't sure.
Weird.
This is all I get.
It's on my end, so there is a way to there is a way to unlock it.
But yeah, you just gotta play 10 matches.
Yeah,
What? I played for 2 hours.
Right.
Wait, unless it's in one
2 hours.
specific session. I don't know. Weird.
Don't know. Just try every character. Maybe you'll unlock him playing now.
Yeah. Hey, that'd be fun.
There you go.
I'll do. I'll set up the 4 CPU.
Yeah.
As
Well,
well.
let's have a look at the let's go through the characters available on here first, starting with the first one.
All right.
Or like, so there's the random,
What is on
obviously, and then the next one. So just move them along. We'll go from left to right.
Okay. In playing them or in just showing them on
No,
here?
just from just to show them off, so people
Okay.
know who's in the game. So there's Blockman, which from in fact, you know what, you're Wii Styler, you're probably better off saying it's your game.
So, yep, Blockman from The Blocks Cometh, which is an iOS game by Halfbot Studios. A Commander Video from Bit.Trip series by Choice Provisions. Oh man, put me on the spot here. Then we've got Fishy.
Other way,
Fishy
Tris.
Other way.
And you guys have slight delay because you're watching the stream.
Oh,
I'm
right,
trying
okay.
to sync it up with the audio that you guys have.
Sorry. Okay, yeah, Fishy from Shuchimi, Neon Deity, right? And then Jack from Dreamspell, which is a Kirby-like that's coming out soon.
Should I go
Okay.
down or should I go over to?
Just go down.
Okay.
Do it like yeah. Just
Okay.
Do it like a backwards C or something. No, do it like a C. Yeah. So Tesla Kid next.
Just look at right from Rain Games. Let's see.
Then it's
Stardrop, which is our own character from our own iOS games, which they're a little outdated. We've learned a lot since we've made Indie Pogo, since we've been working on Indie Pogo for a couple years now. But that's our title character, if you will.
Mhm.
And then next up is Penelope from a game called The Next Penelope, made by a solo designer, and I'm gonna try and get the name correct, but Aurelion, I believe, is his name. He's French.
Okay.
Orcane, I think you guys are probably pretty familiar with him since we just had Dan on the stream. But yeah, that's from Rivals of Ether, obviously, Dan. Let's see, we got Lilac from Galaxy Trail, from Freedom Planet, and the studio's name is Galaxy Trail.
Yep.
Let's see. Lost a Spider from Retro Dreamer. The game name is also Lost a Spider. It's a 2D iOS. We've
Interesting.
got
Sorry.
Captain. Oh, you're fine. Captain Viridian from VVV.
Mhm.
Let's see. Terry Kavanagh. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. And then either Zorby or Zorbet. Not really sure how to pronounce that, but again, that's two French developers, Etienne and Simon Perrin. Again, probably butchering names here, but hey, at least I got all the characters and their developers.
Yeah.
Hey, well done.
All right.
So
I'll set
yeah,
up
so why
for
don't you
random.
start up a game, and we will start up this interview. So
Just go random.
go random for everything.
Yep.
Right. I'll
Alright.
start with this. So that's pretty much the quick rundown of Indie Pogo. So in this we have a lot of for Source Game. We were originally known as like the Smash Brothers site. That was what our bread and butter was. So we of course have a lot of fans who are from Super Smash Brothers originally. And this game being in the same genre, I have to ask, how much inspiration was Smash in the creation of this game?
You know, it's funny you should mention that. Actually, not that much to begin with. There's a game called Slambots on iOS where it's just kind of like an auto-jumping, arcade-ish style game. A couple of years ago, and thinking, wow, this would be really fun if it was multiplayer, you know?
Yeah.
It went from there, it kind of turned into, you know, this feels really fun, it's got the multiplayer. You know, what would it feel like if we added in a double jump? Or what would it feel like if we added in some attacks? And so, or, you know, dodging. It became more and more Smash-like as it went through development. That way, for sure. We knew pretty early on we wanted the indie crossover stuff. In general, it wasn't going to be quite as platform fightery as it has turned out.
Okay, well, so I guess that also answered like my next question of what the inspiration was for the auto jump mechanic. Do you remember the name of the game, the iOS game that used it?
Yeah, it was called Slambots. It's actually made by the same. Yeah, Slambots. It's made by the same creators of Velocispider, which is one of the playable characters in this game.
Okay.
It was just a game that I really had a good time with, and just said, you know what, I could expand this idea, and I think it'd be really cool.
Does that mean we might see some Slambots stuff in this game in the future?
I think it'd be a really nice homage. I haven't talked to those guys about that, but I think that would be cool.
So, in a similar way to Smash, Jump Ultimate Stars, PlayStation All-Stars, it's a crossover title with many series coming together, but unlike those, Indie Pogo stars are all from a variety of unique studios. So how come this was the direction you wanted to go? How come you decided that, hey, let's do a big indie crossover rather than all of the, an original cast like Rivals of Aether does?
I'm trying to think back, because I mean that was super early on in the earliest stages of development. You know, initially, platform where Stardrop was going to be the first character that we had created that was going to be in it, right?
Yeah.
And then as we created new games, it was going to be a platform where we'd be able to retroactively add in our own characters, our own stages, and kind of be some self-promotion.
Oh, okay.
And I think it was around that time that I was starting to do some research. It's like, oh, you know, indie developers seem to be pretty collaborative. That might be a better way to go.
Okay.
It kind of evolved from there, yeah. There was no specific reason why other than, hey, I like a lot of these indie games.
Okay.
See them all in one place, in one fighting game. Because up until this point, you know, again, it was almost 3 years ago that we started, there weren't really any indie crossover fighting games like we've seen a couple now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that infamous indie brawler fighter one, which is very much Smash-like and has like 30-something characters, and is apparently not that good, but I mean, I haven't played it, so just gonna have to go on Steam and see yourself. The one with like salad fingers and the kid from Do You Want to Be the Guy?
Right. I'll reserve judgments for those listening.
Yeah, I haven't played it, so I honestly can't say. I've just heard.
Sure. No, I've not tried it out either.
Yeah. So, were there any difficulties? Actually, no. First of all, how did the process for choosing characters go? Did you have like a list of characters you wanted, and then you went to the owners? Did you?
We got a super long wish list of characters who I think would fit in well, as I'm sure you can imagine.
Yeah, I think I saw we were talking about the fan art picture you made before the stream started.
What I'll do is on Twitter, I'll post some fan art. I kind of knock them out one at a time when I've got some spare time. So I see a comment here in the chat. Looks like the game is lagging. I'm not really sure what's going on with that.
Yeah, I'm noticing that too. I didn't have that earlier. It might just be because I'm streaming at the same time.
Maybe it's your computer?
Yeah, like my computer might be working hard after what happened earlier. I don't know.
Because I've definitely never seen it be this slow, but it doesn't look like it's losing frame rate either, so I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I mean it wasn't like this it hasn't been like this for me at all. So.
No, it hasn't for me either. Only now, only when streaming it. So
maybe it's just the stream itself. I don't know. Oh well, I'm sure it will sort itself out.
Yeah, I think so.
So a pretty long wish list, and then part of what for recruiting I'll do is I'll make some fan art and I'll post it online, and if the developers see it, and I'll obviously tag them in it. If they seem pretty receptive to the idea, that'll start a conversation, either email or some Twitter DMs, whatever. I'll just send some private emails and work through some of the connections, because as I've started to get quite a few studios that we're collaborating with, it's, oh hey, you guys are also friends with these guys. Can you give us a hookup? So that's worked out a couple times in our favor as well. Yeah.
So have there been any difficulties in bringing some of the characters over to Indie Pogo? Obviously, with working with so many people's creations, you have to make sure that you're respectful to them. And I know you said part of this is that you show them the character, how they look first, and see how they feel about it.
Sure. I usually have a pretty good idea of what a character's moveset would be before I go through the process of doing that, recruiting. So I wouldn't say a whole lot. I mean, there have definitely been characters who they've changed a lot from our initial concept to their implementation within the game. Who changed quite a bit. Jack, the little Grim Reaper guy, we went through a couple different attacks for him before we settled on his moveset, before we found something that we really liked. He had a lot of options from his game, and that's part of it is we'll have a lot of options, so we can play around with a couple concepts. But as far as difficulty, no, I wouldn't say that's one of the harder parts. It's just the source material's there. You just got to be faithful to it.
Okay. So did you set yourself a goal with the amount of content in the game, or did you base it on the number of developers that were willing to help? I mean, obviously, we don't know all the content in the game yet. But is this basically what I'm trying to say is, did you have a project plan, an idea? Or is this something where over time it's just been, we can add this as well, and we can add this as well, it's just kind of grown naturally?
A little bit of no. We definitely have a working project plan going. It's basically a Google Doc with, hey, here are the main features we want to tackle. We've developed the game. That's changed a little bit for sure. And don't get me wrong, sometimes an opportunity will pop itself up with a new character or something that kind of, changes development a little bit, and we'd be kind of silly to ignore those opportunities. So we pivot to accommodate characters that we may not have expected to be able to get.
Okay. So was there I noticed that some of the stages obviously have associated characters, like you've got Mr. Fishy from Sushimi has a stage, the bouncy castle one, and Bittrip Runner also has a stage.
I can show them off now.
Yeah.
I just unlocked them.
You unlocked it. Brilliant! Hooray! Told you.
This is weird.
So, there's a VVVV stage, exactly. But then there are some stage games that don't have stages, like Flappy Bird and that first one, which I forgot the name of the stage now, the game now. But
the Afterlife Hub.
Yes, that one. So was this an attempt to get more series involved, knowing that you couldn't make every character into a playable one, or is this just the odd exception?
Yes. So basically, there are definitely some games where we have a character who has moveset potential, but we want to be able to feature the game because there's a lot of recognizable qualities about that game or whatever. Or it kind of goes both ways. So there's that, right? But then also, Blockman and Velocispider both come from iOS games that are in a somewhat similar setting. Visually, they're both, post-apocalyptic cities with an orange color scheme. There's only so much I can do with that, right? So, and try and shoehorn in a couple stages that are going to feel similar. We're definitely, and I know that Dan mentioned this in the chat earlier, basically, when it comes to stages, really focusing on having stages, but have them all be good quality and make sure the layout feels good and everything, versus a lot of quantity and it just all kind of meh.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you want things to stand out and be unique. You don't just want Like, yeah, you don't just want a lot of the same thing just because that's how it is, right?
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to have to, like I said, shoehorn anything that we can't do something unique with.
Yeah, I get that. So
We try to aim for giving each stage some sort of like unique, either a gimmick or a layout thing that makes it feel unique from the rest of them.
okay then.
Interesting.
So let's take a step back about Indie Pogo and talk about Lowe Bros Studios. How did
Sure.
this collaboration, this team come together?
So my brother and I have been working on games for about, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now. Like
wow.
you said, we've done a couple iOS games. That was actually right before I went to grad school. So we kind of took a break from what we now call Lowe Bros Studios. It didn't have the name. That was the entity, was, you know, the two of us making games. Nowadays, he's actually got a job as a programmer elsewhere. We actually met through Twitter a programmer named Chris, who's a fantastic guy, good friend, great programmer. I had never met him before. Just said, hey, you know, I've got this prototype I'm working on for a fighting game. I didn't know that he was a fan of fighting games at that point, but I just kind of showed him the prototype, and here we are.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, it was really cool. The hashtag, I don't know if it's still active anymore. It was Indie Team Up, and so I just kind of searched the hashtag and said, you know, hey, I'm an artist looking for a programmer, and he had already posted on there. I was like, hey, you know, we should Skype sometime.
Okay, so I was going to ask the significance behind the company name, but I guess it's obvious now if it was you and your brother who started it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're all just a bunch of bros.
So currently the game is planned to come to Steam, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, but not Switch, which is, you know, this game feels like it would work well on Nintendo. Is the reason for this because the game is made using Game Maker?
As of right now, and hopefully this will change in the near future, as of right now, Game Maker, Yo-Yo Games, who, you know, is in charge of Game Maker, they, for whatever reason, have not been able to play along with Nintendo to the point where we can get a available. So I won't rule it out completely. There aren't any plans right now. I'm a huge Nintendo fan. I would love to see this game appear on a Nintendo console of any kind, to be honest. But as of right now, I don't see how that's possible.
Okay. How come
Rebuild the game from scratch.
How come Game Maker was chosen as the engine of choice instead of the more port-friendly Unity? Was it the experience you had with the engine?
So as I mentioned before, I had actually started working on this prototype before I had a programmer, so it was just the easiest thing that I, as a non-programmer, I'm an artist, it was the easiest thing that I could put something together. Just went from there, but we also knew that we would be able to port to, as you know, we said before, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. And you got to keep in mind, 3 years ago, we didn't really know anything about the Switch.
Yeah, that's also true.
The Wii U life cycle. The idea of bringing it to the Wii U was not necessarily as the idea of bringing it to the Switch is.
Yeah,
you know, I think
I totally understand. So this game was greenlit on Steam. Steam's greenlight service is pretty infamous, so I'm curious how the whole process went for that.
So I can only speak about my own experiences. For us, it was great. We were on there for, I think, 6 days before we got greenlit. Really just, you know, spam social media, which we didn't have quite the same following we do now. Not that it's... but, you know, just basically...
Change that by the end of this. Sure.
Hopefully so.
So, basically just hit up social media, and a week later got an email from Steam saying, you've been greenlit, and, you know, that was obviously exciting, but I don't feel like it was that hard, per se.
Fair enough. So, do you have any parting words? Oh, sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, do you have any parting words for Steam Greenlight as it closes its doors?
Okay, so yeah, that's where I was going to go with this.
Okay.
I don't know if it's maybe the quality of what the game looked like at the time is the reason why it got greenlit, you know, versus what else is out there, or if just get greenlit at that point, and it is what it is. I do keep word this. I think Steam Greenlight needs to go in the sense that something more efficient can be put in place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something better. Something better at getting the good games noticed and the bad games shelved, basically.
Well, that's the biggie. Is there's so much subpar content that's on there these days that it makes, and I'm not even trying to include myself in this list, but it makes developers of good games who have visibility issues, it makes that problem even harder, you know?
Yeah. I think the overall biggest criticism of Steam Greenlight as a whole.
Yeah, exactly.
So, has the porting process to consoles began yet? Or is it just something that you know you can do, but you want to?
We know we can. It's just one of those things where, when that time comes, you basically just flip a switch. As far as I'm.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be certain things like, you know, we're going to have to change the arts, you know, some of the sprites for some of the buttons for tutorials and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Change a little bit of the language, but in general, as far as I know, there's not going to be a whole lot of rework involved with each port. Again, take that from someone who's never ported a game from one console to another. So.
So the game has a local multiplayer and online multiplayer, but what about any like single-player content? Might we be expecting something like arcade mode or mission mode in the final release, or are we just trying to keep it simple for the first game?
There will definitely be some single-player content. You know, as you can see, we've got some CPUs here. We're hoping for a classic mode. I shouldn't say hoping. We're planning for a classic mode, right? Mm-hmm. We're hoping for a couple other single-player modes in addition to.
Okay.
Can't really comment on what those are right now. We're actually going to be doing a Kickstarter here soon, where we'll be getting a little bit more in-depth on what some of our ideas for that could be.
Nice.
But the answer to that question is definitely yes. And
okay.
after first release, we'll be adding content to what's there on first release. So
okay, so you're going to have post-game content. Has any thought gone behind whether or not that's going to be free or paid, like, or is this just a? Is this just, you know, we want to do it, so we'll see how it goes?
Because we want to do it, but also because we're personally saying, oh, you know, these characters in the base pack, you know, they're worth X amount of money, but then we've got paid DLC for specific characters or stages, or also keep in mind, you know, we have stages that aren't tied to a playable character. And that's just a weird thing to try and balance. So no, it'll most likely just be either be free or just an expansion pack where it's basically content, you know, whatever we release, just like a big content pack.
Like a super Indie Pogo or Indie Pogo Turbo.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Indie Pogo DM.
So one of my favorite parts of the Smash Brothers series is the trophy gallery. I love like researching up all these characters and stage elements and stuff. Has a mode like that been discussed for Indie Pogo, where people can see the origins of all these characters? And
it absolutely has, and it will absolutely be there. There are a lot of characters who, again, maybe they're not able to be a playable character, or maybe they don't come from a world where stage, but you know, there's something about them that we want to be able to feature.
Yeah. So
we already have some planned. We already have talked to some devs about. I can't reveal a whole lot right now. Again,
that's fine.
Yeah, but yes, that will be there.
Okay. Would you be just a thought I had? Would you be doing the artwork for every single one, or because Smash sometimes takes models from the games and puts them in for the trophies, just so you know, for the ones that aren't playable characters or don't have stage elements and stuff like that? Is that something that you'd probably do to cut down on the work time, or are you adamant about, you know, doing it all yourself?
Well, I'm a masochist, so yes. The answer is yes. I'll have to. I mean, don't get me wrong. If a developer who's well versed in pixel art wants to, you know, pixel up their character in a similar art style to ours, I'm all for it. You know, I'm not a dictator, but just for the sake of having visual unity, I think pixel art model. I think you can get away with for 3D models a little bit less of having a style guide, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas 2D art, you know, if it's a completely different art style, you're gonna know. You're gonna notice that right off the bat. It's gonna stick out weird. So, you know, part of bringing all those different worlds together is finding a way to keep it cohesive. You know, that can be a moveset, that can be an art, that can be an audio. But it's all kind of important in my mind as far as keeping it together.
Okay then. What's the time? Because I know we started late on this, so we've still got about 10 minutes left. Let's take a look. Does anyone in the chat have any questions that they want to ask? I've got a couple extra ones, but I'll open up to the floor first.
We need the Jeopardy timer here.
Or countdown. I don't know. Do you guys in America have countdown?
Yep, I think so. Well, I think so. It sounds familiar. Maybe
like
not
a
by
very
that name, but it's concept.
I know it's a very British show. They're on like British comedies, like IT Crowd parodied it at one point. So, well, while we wait for a question, I guess I can. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe it's being slow, but I wanted to ask a question for you. How did you get into pixel art?
That actually dates back to, gosh, I don't know, like elementary school. I remember going on the old computers and they didn't even have it as MS Paint, which, by the way, I used MS Paint for all this pixel art. Call me crazy.
Hey, as long as it works.
You tell me. I don't know. I'm a biased party.
Hey, I think it looks good. I've personally swapped over to graphic scale whenever I feel like doing pixel art, but I used to use Paint as well all the time.
Yeah, well, honestly,
show animations.
With Paint dying, I'm sure I'm gonna have to make that jump soon. But yeah, back at elementary school, I remember I used to make some Mario fan art or whatever. And then it kind of turned into, there are some websites online where you can actually find sprites and you can edit them. So, it kind of evolved from a very early age to.
Yeah.
Let's see, what was next is we started making some Mario fan games, which kind of online somewhere. And so it eventually got to a point where it's like, well, why am I making fan games when I could make games based on my own characters and actually be able to publish this commercially?
Yeah.
So it kind of, I'm not taught in any art classes. I've never taken any pixel art classes. It's all kind of just evolved out of practice.
Right.
Okay. Alright. So, well, let's talk about Stardrop. That's the name of the first game that you made, correct? Yeah. So, how did the idea for this game come about? I haven't actually played it. I just know it's on iOS, right?
Yeah. Initially, the idea was as a tool, like a portfolio piece, if you will, for me to get into grad school.
Okay.
I have a master's degree in game design. And hey, if it's going to make money on the side, by all means, I could become a millionaire with a portfolio piece. Like, that'd be cool, right? Again, that was my brother and myself working on a game, and we kind of we played around with some ideas until we figured out what kind of world did we want to build, what kind of mechanics did we want to play around with. The opportunity for me to, how do you create a game just from a concept and put it all the way to release, have it be fully fleshed out. And a lot of things that I think starting devs don't think about are, music and audio, like how do all these things play together your experience? Mm-hmm. And so I look back at Stardrop Sprint as step in a very long learning process, if you will. It's still a fun game, don't get me wrong. I think there's a lot, like art-wise, that I would change about it. Mechanically, I think it's in a pretty solid place still.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we've tried to, with Indie Pogo, take what we built for the Stardrop character and really bring that to a whole new level and really, flesh out his character a little bit and the ways some of the poses he does, and try and liberty with him because it's our character. We can kind of choose what his moveset's going to be based on some of those mechanics. So yeah, that was a really fun experience.
Actually, that gets me one. Also, so that gets me one more question. Were there any difficulties? Were there any difficulties in implementing some of these characters, or getting some of these characters? Any inside stories where something just didn't quite go the way you expected it?
Yeah, yes. I mean, I can tell you stories about each and every single one of these.
Any that stick out in your mind, whether they were pretty big or because they were funny, or?
So, well, let's talk about Zorby for a second. So that's the green and teal guy on screen right now. Something I really liked about him, just in general, was game, and I know this is something that Dan mentioned in the chat earlier, is League of Legends is one of the inspirations for Rivals of Aether, right? Incidentally, that's also one of the inspirations for us because we have 4 moves, an up, a neutral, a down, and then a grounded attack, right?
Yeah.
So Zori was the first character where we kind of took to the League of Legends methodology and said, there is 4 moves, what if we have them communicate amongst each other? So as Zori, you can throw the axe up in the air, you can then use your up aerial, eat the axe, and move it down as a projectile below you. Right? Also, your neutral, the range and the power changes if you have the axe versus if you don't. On the axe when it's on the ground, and it kind of reactivates it, and you can hit opponents with it. So Zorby, just from a purely personal design perspective, hold dear to the development because it kind of shaped what these movesets could be moving forward.
Okay.
As far as difficulties, with devs, honestly, everything's been really good as far as communication. We don't ask that much of the devs after we get permission to use them. Basically, I'll ask for sound effects for authenticity, but in general, everyone's been really cool about free reign. I think we've got a couple contracts with a couple people just to make sure that if for whatever reason we didn't their character in a way that they liked, they could back out. But I've not honestly had any complaints with any of them. I think they see that we do a pretty good job of trying to keep true to the original characters. Just, as part of our background, some behind the scenes processes, we'll actually, once we implement their moveset, and do a little video commentary and send that to those developers, to say, hey, here are some of the design decisions behind why we went with what we went with. It's all been minor stuff why don't we change the alternate palette colors to this, and this? Nothing crazy. Yeah. So we've had a very good experience with literally every single one of these.
That's good.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
So again, it's always good for a development for a game goes smoothly and everyone's on board with everything. You got a good product coming. So yeah, I guess that we're getting towards the end of our time, and we've gone through all the questions I had. So why don't you let everyone know where they can find you and when we can expect more information about Indie Pogo?
The Twitter handle is @Lowe Bros. That's going to be the easiest place to get in contact with us. I'm constantly on Twitter. Can I answer this question in the chat real quick? I see we had one that we asked about earlier.
Okay, sure.
It was, are there any guess what for when the Kickstarter begins?
Guesses or estimates? I think that's
okay.
What
Yes. The Kickstarter will begin early September. We've not set a date, but we're getting close enough. We've got a new trailer that I can't wait for everyone to see. It's pretty exciting. We'll be announcing a new playable character and showing footage for Tesla Kid, Lilac, Orcane, as well as that mysterious new character. And get in contact with us via Twitter if you so choose.
I want to know if you have any hints towards that character. Anything that can drive up the speculation.
It's not the car from Rocket League.
Oh, damn.
There's your hint.
There goes my prediction then.
Yeah. Well, we've got the other thing is we've got quite a few characters that we have permission to use, just in general. Like we've got a cameo pool, if you will, and I can announce this that we'll be doing a voting. Like we're gonna pick 4 or 5.
Okay.
From the pool that we have permission to use, and so yeah, we're gonna try and turn that into a community thing where we'll say, here are your 5 choices, click on the poll, whatever. And then whichever character gets the most votes will develop that character next.
Okay. Alright, so Tris, I don't know what you've got planned next, but I need to start heading off. So I want to thank you for coming on, and thanks everyone for listening.
So guys, thank you for listening in on this interview, and I hope you are interested in what you heard. The guys over at Indie Pogo have just started their Kickstarter today, timed it up perfectly. So if you're interested in the game, there's going to be a link to the Kickstarter page below, so go and check it out and give them your support. We're fully behind this game and we hope you are too. Till next time guys, bye.